Most people ruin their sourdough starters by overcomplicating things and giving up or throwing it out. I'll show you how I maintain my sourdough starter with very little effort so it's ready to rock and roll at a moment's notice. This is Joe's kitchen, and I've went from making my own sourdough starter to making countless sourdough loaves at home and getting very consistent results. Everything I do to maintain my starter comes down to 3 key ideas. These form part of what I call the ICE method: inputs, cues and environment. The first idea is inputs, what and how you feed your starter. Once a starter is established, it's best to use the one flour, not a variety. Pick one flour and just stick to it. Changing flours too often is one of the fastest ways to destabilise your starter. Bread flour or plain or all-purpose flour works best. A 1 part starter to 1 part flour to 1 part water will rise quicker than a 1 to 2 to 2 ratio. You should try and keep it consistent, but one ratio may work better for your starter. My preferred ratio is between a 1 to 2 to 2 to a 1 to 3 to 3. Don't overthink the water quality. I make really good sourdough using just tap water. Although if your water supply is heavy in chemicals, you may consider using bottled or filtered. Lukewarm water is usually fine unless your home is extremely hot. The second idea is cues, how to read your starter. I know my starter is ready to use based on the rise and fall lines. This one is a bit less obvious, but if you have an established starter, a strange or abnormal smell is a good indication of an issue. If you have a new starter, there may be some strange smells. But once your starter is established, you'll soon get to know what smells normal and what doesn't. After feeding your starter, it will generally rise and fall on some sort of standard schedule that you can see. If you feed your starter at the same time, the same ratio, with everything else being the same, it should take the same amount of time to rise. The third idea is environment. My kitchen temperature is around 18 degrees C in the winter and my starter is pretty strong. Room temperature is just fine. If it's too hot, you can use colder water when feeding, and remember you can store your sourdough starter in the fridge. This will slow the fermentation process down and you only need to feed it once a week when you're not using it. I recommend using a jar that has an option of a slightly loose lid. You don't need to worry too much about where your starter lives, as long as you don't have any extreme temperatures like very hot or very cold. In this case, leaving a jar out on the counter will usually be fine. If you follow the ICE method and keep the inputs consistent, learn to read the cues and monitor the environment, you'll have an easy way of maintaining your sourdough starter with much less stress. Don't give up, don't change things too often, and don't throw it out. I promise it'll be worth it. Now if you don't bake regularly, you don't need to keep feeding it. When I don't need to bake, I keep my sourdough starter in the fridge and this helps the routine massively. Please check out my next video where I show you why and how I do this.